Did you know that William Shakespeare wrote plays for a place called the Globe Theater in the early 17th century? Wait, don't leave. We'll get into the Garry's Mod stuff. I promise. I promise. Just wait. Okay. In 1614, the Globe Theater burned to the ground. So they built another one right on top of the old one, where that stood for 28 years before the First English Civil War in 1642. Then the Long Parliament ordered the closure of all London theatres because being funny was banned during war. And in 1644, the building was torn down to make space for apartments. Look, I know Garry's Mod is in the title. We'll get there. Okay, shh. From then onward, the Globe Theatre was a place that didn't exist. It was seen only in drawings and spoken of as a piece of history. Until 1970, when American actor Sam Wanamaker decided that he wanted to open it back up, and he founded the Shakespeare Globe Trust with the objective of building a one-to-one faithful recreation of the globe close to its original location. It took a long time. 27 years. But after those 27 years, the Shakespeare's Globe stood once again, opening up to the public in 1997, brought back 353 years after it burned to the ground. And to be honest, I'll probably never get to see the reconstructed Globe Theater because travel costs a lot of money, and I don't have that. We're not a big rich boy. Uh-oh. Anyway, a lot of people will get to see it, and they'll marvel at this well-preserved, recreated piece of history. They'll walk through its halls, sit in its seats, and experience something that was, for hundreds of years, lost. But what happens when places don't have a famous, rich, wealthy actor who wants to make a decade-old building and bring it back into existence? Some time ago, I remembered a map that I used to love on Garry's Mod, a recreation of an old park attraction that I would play for hours with my brother back in the olden days of 2009. Oh yeah, we had our iPods, skateboards, there's a truck driving by. For those of you that haven't touched a video game since the 90s, Garry's Mod is what's known as a sandbox game, a game that has no other goal than have fun and gives players all sorts of tools to do whatever they want with. People creates all sorts of shit. Weapons, tools, models, functional robots, phallic things that you probably don't want your mom to walk in on, game modes, and of course, maps. And my brother and I played too much. That's a big number. We played too much Garry's Mod. So, years later, me, now a big full-grown adult big boy, search out the little map that I remembered, and I find it. And it's still great. It's this stunning recreation of a place that I've never been to, but still remember really fondly. And it's also a place that I'll never get to see, because it was torn down in 2008.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
But it made me wonder, how many other situations are there like this? How many other relics of recent-ish history exist within the Garry's Mod workshop? How many recreations of real spaces that were lost to time are out there? So I set myself some parameters and started searching. I had 3 rules. 1. Had to be based on a real place that did exist, recreated as it was to the best of the mapmaker's ability. That ability itself, kind of unimportant, but it does have to be an attempt at a one-to-one recreation. It can't just be inspired by the place. 2, it can't be a place that a person can still visit. If I can hop on a plane or a car and I can go there, off the table. 3, I want to avoid things that are really grand in scale, both actual scale and historically. These are things that are either too big to be represented properly without being really scaled down, or they're things that have just been covered by so many other YouTubers, like in way more depth, and I feel like me talking about them isn't really worth it. In total, I found 3 maps that fit these very particular parameters. It was very hard to find maps that fit these, but I did it, so good job for me. GM hhgregg is a recreation of a standard hhgregg electronics store. You might know them from their famous commercials.
hhgregg is having a summer sale. We've got all the hot new camp amping equipment, such as 10 hentens, Gasolassel Lan Anaturns, Marsharsha Melmel Roasted Toastos, and so Sleepy Bag Agos.
I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and I'd never even heard of hhgregg before I saw this map on the workshop. So let's get into a little history. hhgregg started out as a small storefront built in 1955 on the north side of Indianapolis. Started by two men. Editor Meckles here. As you can tell, I made a mistake here. I don't believe that Fancy Greg is a man. Right there. You can see that I don't think that's a guy. Okay. Love you. Bye. Henry Harold and Fancy Greg. The store sold general appliances, things like washing machines, refrigerators, dryers, and even televisions when they realized the marketability of replacing proper parenting. This location stayed single in its operation for 14 years, with a second location opening in 1969. Their first location outside of Indiana didn't open until 1987. As the years went on, they opened more stores, people got old
and died.
Kids and grandkids took over the business, and in March of 2009, Circuit City, another one of America's largest electronic retail chains,
died.
Filed for bankruptcy. You ever eat too much food at Thanksgiving and then you gotta undo your belt because your stomach's too full and you know you shouldn't eat anymore, but man, grandma's apple pie is looking real good this year, so you decide, you know what, sure, I'll have a slice. And then,
it was a mistake. I had too much. I'm too big. I'm too full. Now I'm stuck with all this food in me and I can't find someone to buy all this food. Oh, and this analogy's falling apart.
Well, that's what old hhgregg did with buying up stores, because they got too greedy and they opened up over 150 stores in a 5-year span. And that's a lot, dude. That's a lot of stores. They entered a period of stagnation from 2013 to 2016, where they opened up no new stores because all their money was tied up in all those new properties that they opened up. And by May of 2017, they had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, laid off thousands of employees,
and died.
And closed up all of their physical locations, now operating only as an online storefront. God, who am I? Am I the company man? Actually, he has a great video on the history of hhgregg that I watched while researching this that goes into a lot more detail, so if you're curious about how a store just completely shot itself in the foot, go check that out. Link is in the description. The map was created by A.K. Avery. Loading in, you're greeted by this cool, almost imposing dark sky and an empty parking lot. Rain's coming down, the bright red sign shining imposingly. I've said imposing twice. In the distance, I actually really dig the aesthetic of this map. It's got that at the grocery store at 2 a.m. sort of vibe. And as you walk through the door, you're greeted with an empty electronics store. It's a wide open space. There's a customer help desk in the front, cash registers, everything you'd expect to see. Rows of item racks spanning into the back of the store with large signs stating home solutions, electronics, appliances, the works. Honestly, comparing this map to actual photos and videos of the stores, it's pretty spot on layout wise. It uses official ads and signage as textures plastered across the store, giving a very genuine feel to the whole thing. The map even uses official Christmas in July sale ads from the company, which, I don't know, I think is kind of cute. Overall, I really dig it. It gives me those at a store when they're like 5 minutes away from closing and the clerk at the counter is giving me looks and I should probably get out of here sort of feeling. It's solid. It's
hhgregg. We've got all the hhgreggs.
Waterworld is probably one of the more famous Gmod maps, popular with the players of Trouble in Terrorist Town, game mode about a group of terrorists who have to weed out the traitors among them via voice chat and in-game decisions such as I don't know, I've never actually played this game mode. I was socially anxious, okay? I was just a little boy. The map was created by user Dougals and is based off a real water park, Leith Waterworld in Edinburgh, Scotland. The pool was opened in 1992 and operated until November of 1999, when the building had to be closed for renovations. Tiles are falling off walls, parts of the metal structure were rusting, with electrical issues on top of that. And, we all played Don't Lick the Socket as kids. We know the consequences of electricity and water. It opened back up in 2002, with repairs estimating to have cost around £270,000. It remained in operation for several years, with an attempt from the City Council to close it down in 2005. According to the Edinburgh City Council's convener of Culture and Leisure,
I declare the citizens are not having enough fun.
It was agreed upon in 2005 that Waterworld would at some point be sold off in order to help fund future refurbishment plans for another project. The council claimed that the park just cost too much to run and didn't bring enough revenue to be worth it. So, in December of 2011, the council voted to close down the water park. Campaigners protested, put in official complaints, tried to raise enough money to save the park, and the pool even became a talking point during local elections in 2012.
We know about the loads!
Waterworld was notable for being the only water park with flumes within Edinburgh, the other major pool being the Royal Commonwealth Pool about 2.5 miles away. That one, it didn't have no flumes. Just a big tub of water. Stupid. Ultimately, Leith Waterworld closed down in January of 2012. Some people continued to protest, a group known as Splashback putting in a bid to reopen the facility, but that was rejected. In May of 2013, a proposal was accepted to redevelop the park into a soft play area, Wonderworld Soft Play, which still operates to this day. This map oozes classic Source Engine, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. It's got that 2006 custom map blockiness. It uses default textures, all the models are fairly simple, and it encompasses that somewhat somber, eerie vibe of early Gmod maps to an absolute T. And my god, this map's use of space. The pools are huge, spanning across the entire building. The metal support beams rise up into the ceiling, which is covered with air vents and lights. The iconic monolithic tower stairs lie dormant in the middle of the map. You can step into the water and you'll be pushed along with the flow, meandering through the water park's twists and turns until you're back in the main pool. You can hop into the chutes and slide down them. Everything that I would want to be able to interact with here, I can in a way that feels very satisfying. It feels, like a real place. A real place that's really easy to imagine, full of people, full of screaming kids with water splashing all over the place. Despite the simplistic textures and models, nothing really feels unnatural here. Waterworld feels like a water park that I would have gone to when I was 13 years old. I can remember visiting similar places, waiting in line to go down the big slides with my friends. To use a word that's been all over the internet, maybe not by the time I actually get to making this video, it captures a liminal feeling very well, being in a place that's sort of in between places. Unlike hhgreggs, this map doesn't have any signage. It has no advertisements to tell you where you are or what events are going on, and I feel like that makes this map have an almost timeless, ethereal sort of feel, like I'm stepping inside of a place that is unchanged, unaffected by the flow of time. Sadly, the real location wasn't so lucky as to be unaffected by the flow of time, but at least we'll always have TTT Waterworld. Also, shout out to Endy and his iceberg videos on Garry's mod, because that is the reason that I know that this place was based on a real location and made me want to dig into that further. And before we get to the last one, I want to thank today's sponsor, Big Jim's Crab Shack. They provided me a tape to play for all of you, so I'm going to pop that in, and here we go.
Are you tired of looking for places to eat? Asking the wife, "Hey hun, what are you in the mood for?" She says, "I I know. Just like she used to do every night before the big fight. Okay. I miss you so much. Okay. Get yourself together. Well, wait no more. Get your patootie on down to Big Jim's Crab Shack right now. Are you looking for crabs? We got them. We got big crabs, we got little crabs, crabs that ain't crabs, squirmy little fellas wiggle around in the water with the crabs. We got those too. What else could you want? I'm talking, we got crabs, we got shacks, we got bigs, we got gyms. We got crabs on shacks, shacks on crabs, bigs on gyms. We got it all, Big Jim's Crab Shack. Take it from me, Big Jim, who's very much a real man, and I'm not an image generated by the Stable Diffusion AI software. Do not look at my hands. I am real. I am real. I am real. Am I real? You don't want to miss out on these crabs. So come on down to Big Jim's Crab Shack. All locations found in a secret place in the back of your local Jollibee. All right, I hope that was a good ad. I didn't watch it. But thanks again to Big Jim's Crab Shacks for sponsoring this video. GM Adventures is a map made by the user GMAA Brerbin, and I hope I'm saying that right. And it's the reason I made this entire video, and frankly, this YouTube channel. It's the map that I mentioned in the beginning that I played with my brother when I was young, and I love this map. I adore it. It's the map that really made me realize that a user-created map could be more than just like GM Flatgrass or, you know, some silly place to put ragdolls and build crappy robots. The map is based on the Adventurers Club, an improv club / theater / restaurant themed after the pith helmet era of explorers and travelers of the 1930s. They held shows, had cool characters walking around in full costume, made cool drinks. It just looks like fun. The club was settled in Walt Disney World's Pleasure Island, a series of shops and nightclubs that were aimed at a more adult audience than the rest of Disney World. I remember finding out that this was a real place, like a place I could actually go to, and I could see, and I got so excited. It was in Disney World, and my preteen brain was on the verge of exploding. So I ran, I zoom over to the old Google and I look it up, and it's closed. It's more than closed. It's torn down entirely. The Adventurers Club opened on May 1st, 1989. The club, along with the others on the island, was based on the fictional exploits of the island's previous owner, a man by the name of Meriwether Adam Pleasure, and his family, who, according to lore, had gone insane, tried to contact aliens, then gotten lost at sea. And then a giant hurricane wiped out the island estate, and it was lost for good. Only to be found and restored by archaeologists 40 years later, who turned it into a bunch of nightclubs.
It's free real estate.
The actual club was the brainchild of Chris Carradine, who sketched the original layout on a cocktail napkin, claiming that there will be more rooms than guests will ever see, and Joe Rohde, an Imagineer working for Disney that was the mind behind Animal Kingdom, and both men went on to be key figures behind the development of the Adventurers Club and its lore. Joe was known for an annual party with a unique theme, the last days of the Raj, based upon the end of Britain's control over the Indian subcontinent that took place during the 19th and 20th centuries. Guests would dress up and act out various roles, and there was probably a lot of blackface.
My editor has recommended that I remove this part. These men they did not do anything culturally insensitive ever, and are incapable of doing so. Praise the mouse. Long may he reign.
This annual party became the inspiration for the Adventurers Club, born out of a, to quote Craig Wilson, a member of the project's dramatic team, a collective shared love of the world of the pith helmet and all that circled around it. It was a place we always wanted to go, but it didn't exist. Can't relate to that. Each night at the Adventurers Club, the setting was 1937, New Year's Eve, with the characters discussing their exploits of the year and many of the shows being centered around this same theme. The walls of the club were covered head to toe with artifacts, photographs, animatronics, puppets, all portraying parts of a greater story that was the history of the Adventurers Club. The club creed hung proudly in the middle of the main salon, welcoming all who entered as friends. Every room was grand and detailed, many of them hosting different shows that guests could watch throughout the night. You had the zebra mezzanine, the main salon, the mask room, the treasure room, the library. Actors portraying different members of the club would roam the halls, improvising discussions with guests while wearing grand costumes and staying in character, bringing a sense of realness to this fictional history. And they had so many characters. You had Colonel Quitchlow Sunchbench, that's hard to say, an animatronic gleemeister controlled by puppeteers behind the scenes who would lead the club in song and sometimes just converse with guests. Emil Bleehall, a plucky junior adventurer from Ohio who featured in several of the shows. Otis T. Wren, the club treasurer and ichthyologist. I had to look that up, it's someone who studies fish. Graves, the club butler, Samantha Sterling, an explorer and cabaret singer, Babylonia, a giant stone face on the wall who would talk to guests, Fingers Zambezi, a ghost that haunted an organ and provided music for shows that took place at the library.
You thought I was done?
The club held several shows throughout the night that the public could tune into, including the Welcoming Party, old-timey radio broadcasts of Tales of the Adventurers Club, where half the cast would be missing and they'd have to bring in audience members to fill the spots. The Balderdash Cup competition, where the character of Emil Bleehall would win the title Adventurer of the Year, keeping Otis T. Wren from his 4th victory in a row. The Radiothon, where the club would use its radio broadcast to attempt to raise $2,000 to keep the club from losing its lease and closing down, each night ending with them tumultuously reaching their goal after a variety of acts, keeping the club alive for another year. And just a ton more stuff, okay? There is so much to this place. I could go on for hours. I love it so much. But it couldn't last. On June 27th, 2008, Disney announced that the entirety of Pleasure Island would be closing permanently on September 27th of the same year. There were online petitions, but even with over 2,750 signatures in the first 3 days, Disney had made up their mind. The club held its last public performance on September 27th, 2008, to an overflowing crowd. On this day, Emil Bleehall lost the Balderdash Cup for the first time in the club's history, Otis T. Wren finally getting his 4th victory in a row. For the first time, the Radiothon failed to raise $2,000. They would lose their lease, and the club would be closed. On November 10th, 2010, Disney announced Hyperion Wharf, a project that would replace Pleasure Island. Hyperion Wharf never happened, but permits show that the Adventurers Club, along with all the other clubs of Pleasure Island, were demolished between November 2010 and February 2011. Disney Springs, a resort that replaced both Pleasure Island and the downtown Disney area, was opened on May 15th, 2016, and that still stands to this day. Right, the map. Sorry, there was a lot of passion there. I apologize. I really, really would like to have been able to go there. I honestly don't know what to say about this map. It's astounding, even years later. Its attention to detail is just, it's wild. The photos on the walls, the plaques, the sculptures, everything that I saw in videos and photographs, it's all there. You can make out every photo, every trophy, every item hung in every room, every poster shouting 1937 New Year's Eve, and every creed and cheer. And this in a place that's filled with as much stuff as the Adventurers Club, that's a fucking feat. You can interact with the Gleemeister, with Babylonia, with the masks in the mask room, and I'm pretty sure that the lines that they speak are actual recorded dialogue from the club.
Hiya, folks. Hello, everybody. You're gonna die.
I find myself climbing up onto the balcony and just looking, taking in all the little details of this place that I'll never get to go to. Out of these 3 maps, this is genuinely the only one that when I load it up, I feel a sense of longing, like knowing that this map in this game is the closest I'll ever get to being at this place. Sorry if you can hear my dog. But damn, I'm so glad that it exists. So, why did I make this video? Why did I struggle through learning how to fucking read a script, for this? These aren't big budget projects. They're not pieces that were created by like a corporation or a celebrity with the purpose of, hey, come check out my cool new club, or, visit my house and pay $400 to, I don't know, look at a cool lamp that I own. They aren't trying to sell you something, because the thing that they're presenting doesn't exist anymore. These are like memories, rendered in 3D, held in a moment in time that those who created them remember them. They stand as monuments to that which is no longer with us. Leith Water Park will probably never be rebuilt like the Shakespeare's Globe Theater. It will not rise from the ground built by new hands in 300 years from now. The Adventurers Club will not be rediscovered and rebuilt by archaeologists after being lost for 40 years. But they do live on through these creations. Those who made them sharing a little part of their own history with anyone willing to hit download. It'll never be the same as actually walking down these places' halls, but they're the closest that I'll ever get. If Brerben hadn't taken the time and the dedication to make GM Adventures, if Dougals hadn't taken the time to recreate the Leith Water Park, I would have never known that they existed. But I do, because they did. And I just think that's something to appreciate. Hey, thanks for taking the time to watch this video, because it's my first one. Ooh, wowee! And I hope it wasn't terrible. If you like it, hit subscribe or whatever, because I'm probably going to try and make more, but yeah, I've worked on the script for like 4 days as of writing this, so we'll see what happens. Thanks again. I almost forgot, it's time for the fan art corner. Let's see what we got. Wait a minute, I don't have any fans. I just started. Who drew this? Hey, who drew this?